I never believed in omens until the first time I laid eyes on Blackthorn Manor. I pull into the gravel courtyard as dusk bleeds into violet and bruise purple, engine ticking as it cools. My reflection stares back at me from the windshield, pale, tired eyes beneath a braid of honey blonde hair. I am Emma Carlyle, best-selling crime novelist, armed with nothing more than a laptop and an overactive imagination. But tonight, that imagination is the only shield I have against the creeping dread curling up my spine. The manor's wrought. Iron gates swing closed with a hollow clang behind me. A wind whistles through the barren oaks, rattling the leaded glass windows. I pause, fingers tight around my carry-on. My chest tightens in a familiar rhythm pressure, building under ribs like a clenched fist. I remind myself, it's only an empty house. Isolation is part of the deal. I asked for silence, solitude, a sanctuary in which to birth the next bestseller. My heels click on the flagstones as I enter through the grand foyer. A huge chandelier looms overhead, crystals swaying though there's no breeze inside. My own breath feels too loud in the cavernous space. I set down my suitcase by the ebony-stained staircase and run my hand over the banister, cool and smooth. Deep in my gut, a low hum quivers, something waiting just out of sight. I cross to the fireplace and press my palm against the dusty mantle. Memories flash, pages filled with bloodied corpses, frantic detectives chasing ghosts of criminals long dead. I've written of fear and murder so many times that I'm half convinced it's seeped into my bones. But here, in Blackthorn Manor, fear is no longer confined to ink and paper. As I pull back threadbare drapes to survey the grounds, the wind carries a distant sound, like hushed voices drifting through the trees. My heart thumps. I blink, and it's gone. I swallow, scolding myself. There's nobody here but me. The caretaker left days ago, promising to return in a week. Until then, I own this place, my own fortress of inspiration. I move through room after room, library, drawing room, dining hall, treating portrait, and frayed rug whispering of lives long vanished. I settle at a heavy oak desk in the study, plug in my laptop, and wait. The keys flicker to life in a glow that feels too intimate in the gathering gloom. I run my fingers across them, as if greeting an old friend. Alone with my thoughts, I feel the walls lean in. Every tick of the grandfather clock in the hall is amplified, counting down to something I can't name. My pulse hammers, a frantic percussion under my collarbone. I close my eyes, willing calm. I am a creator of darkness, not its victim. Minutes pass. I open my eyes and begin to type. It began with a whisper. I pause, struck by the irony. A whisper, indeed, from somewhere behind the locked door at the end of the corridor. I lift my head. Silence again, but my muscles not coiling like springs. My imagination, once a playground of invented horrors, now feeds on the cathedral quiet around me. I stand, stretching stiff shoulders, and decide to explore. Inspiration, I tell myself. Research for the atmosphere. Floorboards groan beneath my boots as I approach the corridor. Candle sconces line the walls, their flicker revealing pockets of darkness between each glow. My breath hitches when I reach the mahogany door. Its iron knocker hangs motionless, heart pounding like a hammer. I lift a trembling hand to knock, but stop. The whisper returns, indistinct words slipping through the wood grain. I press my ear flat against the door. A voice, no two voices, murmuring accusations, regrets, pleas. My throat goes dry. I stumble back, palms braced against the cool. While my mind races, is this real or a trick of my own making? Loneliness curls around me, colder than any winter wind. I realize I have not heard another human voice in nearly 24 hours, not since I arrived. My phone lies in my suitcase, no signal, of course. This manor sits in the middle of nowhere, a remote island of stone and sorrow. I swallow hard, willing logic to return. Perhaps rodents in the walls, murmuring through the studs. Rational explanations exist for every creak, every fleeting shadow. But reason feels thin here, stretched over a chasm of unease. I head back to the study, fingers shaking as I settle into the leather chair. I type another line. Every door she opened revealed a darker secret than the last. The words flow, but my gaze darts to the corridor. My breath catches as a floorboard nearby groans footsteps, slow and deliberate, edging closer. I freeze, knuckles white on the keyboard. The footsteps stop. A soft click. The study door latch. Hello. I whisper, voice trembling. No answer. My chest contracts, hot fear tight in my veins. I grasp the keyboard, knuckles clattering across the keys as I type reflexively. She was not alone. My reflection shimmers in the window behind me. For a split second, I see someone standing there tall, indistinct, spectre-like. My heart lurches. I spin around, empty hallway. I press my back against the chair, fingers fumbling to close the laptop. My pulse echoes in my ears. The manor's walls seem to breathe, expanding and contracting as though alive. Loneliness bleeds into terror. I realize how desperate I am for human contact, for proof that I still inhabit reality and not the pages of my own creation. I gather courage and stand, resolve hardening. I will confront this fear. I will catalogue every whisper, every creak, and I will turn it all into art, because that's what I do. I write the darkness, and in doing so, I master it. Taking a deep breath, I lift the laptop under my arm and head for the corridor again, determination stealing my limbs. The manor may be old, may be haunted or haunted only by my imagination. Either way, I will not let the darkness win. Yet, as I step forward, the whispering surrounds me once more, soft and urgent, as though the very walls conspire to pull me into their secret. And in that instant, I know this story is far from over. I wake before dawn, eyelids heavy as if weighed down by unseen hands. My body aches from the stiff oak chair, and the chill in the air seeps through my thin pajamas. I push myself upright and glance at the antique clock perched on the mantel for 17 a.m. The dark windows reflect my hollow eyes. I rub my temples, trying to dispel the residue of nightmares. Sleep here is a risky proposition. Every shadow might hide a spectre, every breeze a wailing phantom. I tiptoed down the corridor toward the kitchen, craving coffee as an anchor to latch reality. My footsteps echo unnaturally loud, and somewhere behind me, I swear I hear a door click shut. My heart jolts into frantic staccato. I whirl around the hallway is empty. I clutch the doorframe, breath ragged, and whisper, "It's just the house settling." But even I don't believe it. In the kitchen, I light the stove's pilot, and the flame sputters to life with a soft hiss. Steam curls from the kettle as I fill my mug, the metallic clang echoing. I wrap my fingers around the warm ceramic and let out a shaky exhale. The steam fogs the window, obscuring the world outside. I study my reflection, dark circles shadowing my eyes. lips pale and parted in a silent gasp. I return to the study, coffee in hand, and sit at the desk. The manuscript file blinks on my laptop, 7 words waiting to bloom into darkness. I type, but the words feel hollow. My thoughts drift to the locked door and the voices entombed behind it. Are they real? I sip my coffee, the bitterness lancing my tongue, and force myself to concentrate. A sudden knock at the study door makes me jump. My mug rattles on the desk. I freeze. Knock again, 3 slow taps, deliberate. My pulse spikes to thunderous pace. I swallow, voice brittle. Who's there? Silence. Then a low creak as the latch turns. My chest constricts. I stand, chair scraping the floor. Stop, I shout, stepping forward. The door swings inward on its own, revealing an empty hallway, swallowed by darkness. My heart pounds as if trying to escape my chest. I cross my arms, trying to steady my racing pulse. This is ridiculous, I mutter, though my voice trembles. I grip the doorknob and twist it shut, my knuckles white. Beneath my fingertips, the wood ripples like flesh. I snatch my hand away, breath catching. I shove the door closed and lean against it, knees buckling. I sink to the floor, back pressed to cold, unforgiving oak. My mug of coffee sits on the desk, forgotten and half empty. Steam no longer rises. The room feels vast and empty, and loneliness crawls in, whispering cruel truths. You're alone. No one will come. You chose this. The silence stretches, heavy as fog. My eyes sting, tears threatening to slip free. I pull my knees to my chest, rocking slightly. I'm here for my book, I whisper, but isolation isn't a slow erosion of sanity. I clench my teeth, fighting the tremor in my fingers. I force myself up, breathing through my nose. Each inhale is a battle. I march back to the desk, open my manuscript, and force my fingers to dance across the keys. The whispers grew, each syllable a promise of madness. The words appear, jagged and raw. My heart hammers with the thrill of creation, the only sensation that feels real. But as I write, my eyes flick to the corridor. In the periphery, a shadow slinks past the study door. I blink, and it's gone. I shove the laptop shut and stand. The walls seem to close in, the ceiling lower than before. I need fresh air. I grab my coat and head outside, stumbling across the gravel yard. The air is cold, crisp, tasting of pine and moss. I breathe deep, hoping the scent will clear the fog in my mind. The grounds stretch out, shrouded in half-light. A crumbling fountain lies in the center of an overgrown courtyard, its dry basin cracked. I trace a finger along its rim, feeling the jagged edge bite into my palm. I consider exploring the walled garden. Perhaps there I'll find something tangible, something that proves the house isn't alive. I step toward the gate when a rustling in the underbrush stops me. My breath catches. I scan the hedges, but tangled branches. I take another step, and a twig snaps sharply. I jump, whirling around. My heart races as I convince myself it's just wildlife, rabbits or stray deer. I laugh, but it's hollow. I wander the perimeter, notebook in hand. I jot down descriptions, twisted oaks like gnarled hands, moonlight bleeding through broken shutters, silence punctuated by unseen footsteps. The words flow, but my pen stalls when I swear I see a figure at the window, pale face pressed against the glass. I blink twice, but it's gone. A cold dread seeps through me. My hands tremble, and I clutch the notebook to my chest. The manor's windows stare back like death masks, unblinking. Every fiber of my being screams to run, to escape this place. But I can't. I need these walls, these whispers, they feed my art. I slip back inside and lock the heavy door behind me. My fingers fumble for the key, but it falls to the floor with a metallic clink that echoes like a gunshot. I bend to retrieve it, and in that instant, I feel breath on my neck, warm, deliberate, almost tender. My blood freezes. I whip around, empty hall, flickering candlelight. Tears spring to my eyes. I whisper, voice barely audible, "What do you want from me?" No answer, but in the silence, I feel presence, watchful, patient. I retreat to the study, slam the door, and slide it closed. I brace my shoulder against the wood, sliding down until I'm sitting on the floor. My breathing is shallow, erratic. I squeeze my eyes shut and will the panic to subside. This place doesn't know me. I am its mistress, its storyteller. After a moment, I push myself up and return to the desk. Laptop glowing, waiting. My fingers hover above the keys, reluctant. I force them down, typing. She felt watched, her every secret laid bare by unseen eyes. The keystrokes bring a flicker of calmer sense of purpose. In this house of terrors, I am the only reality. Yet as I write, I glance again toward the locked door at the corridor's end. Behind it, the whispers echo, inviting me in. My pulse is steady now, replaced by a cold determination. I will confront whatever lurks beyond that door. But first, I must arm myself with pen, with words, and with every ounce of courage I can muster. I take a deep breath, eyes fixed on the corridor's shadowed length. The whispers grow louder in my mind, but I smile. This is the heart of my story, and I am ready to bleed on the page. I wake again in darkness, the moonlight through the shattered shutters painting slashes of silver across my quilt. My dreams offered no respite, just disjointed echoes of the manor. A child's laughter in the hallway, the scrape of metal on stone, and that voice behind the locked door, calling my name in a tone that was equal parts invitation and accusation. I sit up, heart hammering against my ribs like a frantic bird. My palms feel clammy in the cool air. I reach for my phone, desperate for a lifeline. No signal. The screen remains stubbornly blank. I press the side button until the device's indifferent blackness reflects back at me. There is no one to call. No rescue, only me and this house that breathes. I force myself out of bed, each movement deliberate to stave off panic. My reflection in the dresser mirror startles my eyes too wide, skin drained of color, lips quivering. I study my face as though it belongs to someone I scarcely recognize. A stranger living inside me, feeding on fear. I dress quickly in jeans and a sweater, practical armor against the mania building inside. I grab my notebook and pen, convince myself I need to document the deterioration, both for the story and for proof that I am still rooted in reality. But the words I write bleed together, malformed and hysterical. Day 3, the house whispers my secrets. It knows my name, my fears. It watches me when I write. Tonight, the shadows moved without a light source. I reread the entry and wince. It reads like a fevered confession, but I can't stop writing. The pen feels connected to my veins, channeling the raw ache inside me onto the page. A sudden crash makes me jerk upright. The window in the corner of the room shatters, glass spraying across the floor. My breath catches as shards tinkling to the ground mimic laughter cold, mocking. I rush over, heart in my throat. The smashed pane frames darkness so absolute it feels alive. A gust of wind swirls papers across the room. I shriek and scramble to catch them, but one slips away, drifting down the corridor like a fallen leaf. Through the broken window, I glimpse movement, pale fingers brushing the sill, then a flash of white fabric slipping back into the void. I stumble backwards, chest constricting. A figure slender, obscured by night lingers just beyond the glass. I scream, tripping over my own feet, and crash to the floor. Silence follows, breath thundering in my ears. I scramble to my feet and slam the window shut, pressing my weight against it until the frame groans. My fingers tremble as I locked the latch. I press my forehead against a cold wood, tears flowing freely now. I want to run, to escape this house and never look back, but every part of me aches to uncover the truth of these apparitions, these whispers, this madness. I retreat to the study, dragging my shattered confidence behind me. I collapse into the chair, wrapping my arms around myself. The laptop glows patiently, longing for my input. I stare at it, paralyzed. Imagination warps into nightmare here. I feel memory blur with invention. Did that figure really appear, or did I conjure it in sleep's fever? I press my palms to my eyes, push the questions away. I must write. If I stop writing, I stop existing. Fingers poised, I type, her mind frayed like old parchment, every stroke of the quill tearing at what remained of reason. The words come easier than breathing, and yet, when I finish the sentence, I can no longer tell whether they describe my protagonist or myself. The candle beside my laptop gutter flickers, casting long dancing shadows on the walls. Each shadow seems to reach for me, sinewy arms stretching from window frames and doorways. I close the manuscript and stand, pacing the room. I need light. I rummage in the desk drawer for matches, strike one, and relight the candle. Its small flame sputters defiantly. I grip the matchbook until it cracks under pressure. I exhale, watching the smoke swirl upward. A whisper drifts from the locked door at the end of the corridor, soft and pleading. Emma, Emma, it carries layers of emotion, yearning, accusation, sorrow. My name tastes bitter on my tongue. The voice feels intimate, as though the house knows me better than I know myself. I stagger toward the door, hand next to the keyhole. My knuckles ache from the grip. My mind screams to stop, to retreat, to bury myself under blankets until morning. But I move forward, drawn by a compulsion I cannot resist. My heart pounds, not with fear, but with a twisted curiosity. I insert the key and turn it slowly. The tumblers click. The door swings inward without a sound. My breath hitched as the darkness beyond yawns like an abyss. I slip inside. The room is cold, freezing, and empty. The only illumination is the sliver of candlelight behind me. I raise the flame on high, scanning the walls. Cracked wallpaper peels like skin. A single window, unbroken, stares back at me. No footprints mar the dust. No sign of the figure from the shattered window. Then I see it, a message scrawled. Across the far wall in what looks like dried mud, smeared and jagged, I see you. My knees buckle. I gasp, and the candle shakes, flame threatening to die. A tremor runs through me, limbs trembling uncontrollably. My mind of me wants to flee in blind terror. Part wants to kneel and weep at the artistry of the message. its cruel precision. I back out of the room, eyes wild, tears flowing unchecked. I slam the door, hurl the key across the corridor. The lock snaps shut. I press my back against the door, sliding down until I'm crumpled on the floor, chest heaving. My thoughts spiral. The manor is no mere setting, it's a living, breathing character. It's mocking me, taunting me, breaking me down. My isolation, once a cocoon of creativity, has transformed into a crucible of despair. Every step forward in the manuscript echoes with real dread. Every sentence births fresh horrors. Yet, even as I tremble, a dark thrill coils in my gut. This is the purest writing I have ever done. Every line infused with raw terror, unfiltered emotion, the pounding of my own blood. And somewhere inside my fractured mind, I realize this is why I chose this. To bleed on the page, to let the darkness consume me. I pull my laptop back from my bag and fling it open. My fingers hover over the keyboard, shaking like leaves in a storm. Doubt claws at me. Should I stop? Should I close the file and lock myself in a room until morning? But I begin. She wrote her confession on the walls, in words that could not be erased. And as she read them, she understood that the true horror was not what lay behind the door, but what lay within her own mind. The words flow in a torrent, unbidden and unstoppable. Tears blur my vision. I type with feverish urgency, spilling every thought, every terror, every raw emotion into the document behind me. Somewhere in the manor, the whispers swell into a chorus, soft, cruel, and insistent. They sing my name, yet I write on. I hardly notice the passing hours. Time fractures here, splintering into jagged shards I can't piece together. My world has contracted down to this endless labyrinth of corridors, this flickering candlelight, and the insistent murmur of whispering walls. I can no longer say what's dream and what's awake. I wake on the study floor, laptop screen still aglow, the last sentence I wrote shimmering in blue light. Her own reflection stared back at her holo, haunted, a stranger wearing her face. My head throbs, jaw tight. My cheek rests on the cold wood. I push up on shaking arms and tilt my head, disoriented. The room is the same, but feels different, starker, stripped of comfort. Papers and pens are strewn across the desk, my scribbled notes fluttering in a ghostly dance as a draft brushes past. I glance at the corridor beyond. Half the candles have gone out. Darkness seeps from the corners like ink. A soft drip echoes from who knows where, framing the silence. I stand, limbs heavy, and stumble into the hallway. Footsteps, my own, or someone else's. I halt, heart thrumming, the steps slow to a halt as well. I exhale a shaky laugh. Stop playing games, I whisper into the emptiness. But the hallway remains mute, unyielding. I run my fingers along the wall, tracing the grooves in the plaster. It feels uneven, like the skin of some living creature. My palm dips into a depression, and I recoil when cold liquid beads on my fingers. I sniff, water and something metallic, blood. I shake my hand, droplets falling to the floor with muted thuds. Panic coalesces in my chest. My breathing hits, sharp, uneven peaks. I lean against the wall, slide down until I'm sitting on the floor, knees drawn to my chest. The corridor stretches before me like an endless tunnel, lit by dying embers of candlelight. Each flicker reveals shapes that vanish the instant I focus. A hunched silhouette at the far end, a pale face peering from a doorway. A woman in tattered white drifting through walls. I close my eyes, pressing my palms against my lids. I taste copper, my thoughts spin. I'm losing my mind. I'm writing myself into madness. I open my eyes and there, inches from my face, is my own reflection in a warped mirror hanging on the wall. Except the eyes staring back are not mine. They are black pits, bottomless voids. I scream, scrambling backward. My reflection remains, twisting, mouth opening in a silent scream of its own. The glass ripples, and then the vision vanishes, replaced by my terrified face. My chest heaves. I clutch the mirror's jagged frame, hands slick with perspiration. The whispering resumes taunting, soft. Find me, it sighs. Find me, find you where, I shout, voice cracking. Stop this. Silence, then a hollow echo that feels like laughter. I snatch the mirror down and hurl it across the corridor. It shatters against the wall, splinters of glass skittering across the floor. I jump over the shards and sprint back to the study, adrenaline propelling me forward. I slam the door, press my shoulder against it, and slide down until I'm seated on the carpet. My back throbs from the impact. I rock, curling into myself. My mind replays every moment. Did I see that reflection, or did my fevered mind conjure it? I glance at the laptop. The blinking cursor taunts me. In the distorted half-light, my manuscript feels like a ledger of my descent. I stand and pull my notes off the desk, tossing them in a tangle on the floor. I refuse to let my story control me. I pace, hands clasped behind my head. My heart pounds with a desperate rhythm. I need clarity. I need daylight. I grab my coat and head for the front door, then stop. The key is gone. I pat my pockets, panic clawing up my throat. I search the desk and drawers. Only empty spaces stare back. Great, I mutter, locked in my own prison. A sudden gust fans the candle flame, and the flame snaps higher. Shadows leap across the walls. The whispering intensifies, voices overlapping in a discordant chorus. They beckon me, insistently. This is real. She belongs here. You can't leave. My knees buckle, and I sink to the floor, pressing my palms to my ears. I rock back and forth, trying to shut out the voices, but they pierce through the wood, through the stone, rattling my sanity. I yank open a drawer and find the house killing, atop a bundle of letters tied with frayed ribbon. My hands tremble as I unwrap them. Yellowed paper, edges brittle. I unfold the top letter and read in looping script. My dearest Eleanor, if you read this, know that the house will never let you go. It craves your mind, your soul. Each voice you hear is our own, those of us who fell to its hunger. Seal the door and you might last a little longer. But the hunger only grows. Eleanor, not Emma. A cold chill sinks to my bones. This letter is decades old, maybe a century. A former tenant, maybe the previous occupant, or a ghost who never left. I slam the letters shut and stuff them in my coat pocket. I lift the key and hold it out like a lifeline. I will leave this place. I must. Yet, as I insert the key into the lock, I hesitate. Behind the door lies the unknown, the solid world beyond these walls, or another layer of the manor's hungry maze. My thumb twitches over the latch. I inhale, summoning every scrap of courage. I will reclaim my reality. I will step into the daylight and prove I am not a prisoner of my own fear. I turn the key and the door will open, but will I step through? The key turns with a resonant click, and I brace myself, heart pounding, breath caught between hope and terror. The door swings open to a blast of cold air, as if the house itself exhales, a rancid breath that carries the musk of decaying wood. And something fouler, something metallic. My fingers tighten on the key in the lock, knuckles white, but I remain rooted in place, unable to decide whether to step forward or retreat into the false safety of the corridor. A low rumble begins somewhere beneath my feet, as if the manor's foundations moan in protest. The whispers have seized clarity, voices forming into sentences that clog my mind. You belong to us. Your blood feeds our hunger. Enter, we will show you truth. I taste bile in the back of my throat. The air seems thicker here. Viscous, each inhalation a struggle. Despite every instinct screaming to run, I force my boots over the threshold, stepping into a vast chamber I have never seen before. The walls curve around me in a semicircle, lined with floor-to-ceiling bookcases laden with leather-bound volumes. A domed ceiling looms overhead, painted with faded frescoes of angels and demons locked in endless battle. In the center of the chamber stands a massive oak table carved with grotesque faces, mouths agape, eyes hollow. A single candle flickers atop the table, its flame unnaturally bright, casting elongated shadows that crawl across the floor. Atop the table lies a thick, dust-covered tome bound in cracked black leather. The air around it thrums with energy, a palpable pull drawing me forward. I cross the room, every step deliberate, muscles coiled as though bracing for a fall. My reflection shimmers in the polished wood of the book's cover. When I lean closer, I see my face, gaunt and hollow-eyed. But behind me, just beyond the edges of the reflection, stands a figure swathed in shadows. I whirl around, but the chamber is empty. Turning back to the tome, I lift the cover. The pages crackle like dry leaves. The script inside is written in a spidery hand, ink faded to rust brown. I recognize the date stamped on the first page, October 13th, 1892. The text begins. To the one who finds this grimoire, know that the manor is alive, fed by the souls of those who write its story. Each word penned within these walls binds your essence to its corridors. To escape, you must complete the final page. But beware, the ending is never what you expect. My pulse flares. I drop the book, stumbling back. Words are my power, my salvation. Yet here is a warning. Every word I write here binds me deeper. The whispers surge, urgent, write, finish, join us. The candle's flame bends toward me as though inhaling my fear. I wince, but steel myself. I kneel and pick up the tome, thrusting it onto my lap. My hands shake as I turn the pages, searching for the final page, but the book is cursed. Length endless, each folded section revealing new layers of text that bleed into margins. Corners curling as though alive. A crash reverberates through the chamber as one of the overhead frescoes gives way, a chunk of plaster crashing at my feet. I flinch at the explosion of dust and debris, but my gaze fixes on the dome above, a colossal angel painted in pale gold, sword raised, battling a shadowy figure with hollow eyes. The angel's mouth is open in a scream, expression contorted. In terror, a voice rings out my own. Stay back. I realize I've spoken aloud. My reflection in the tome's polished cover shifts. The shadow figure stands before me now, half emerged from the glass, faceless except for two black pits where eyes should be. My stomach drops. I wrench the book closed, lifting it overhead like a shield. This is my story, I say, voice trembling but loud. You will not rewrite me. The figure lunges forward, and the candle snuffs out in a breath of icy air. Darkness envelops me, suffocating. My scream echoes, swallowed by the walls. I lunge blindly, arms outstretched. My hands close around something solid, the edge of the oak table. I grit my teeth and pull, slamming the tome onto the floor. The impact echoes like a gunshot dot in the darkness. The whispers howl. No, you cannot defy us. The ending belongs to the manor. I sink to my knees, breath ragged. My fingertips trace the carved grotesques on the table's edge, faces contorted with agony. My mind races. If words bind me, can words set me free? I shove aside fear and pull my laptop from my bag, heart pounding like a war drum in the void. I flip it open. The screen blazes to life, illuminating the chamber with sterile white light. My fingers hover over the keys. I type a single sentence. I refuse to be your victim. A tremor runs through the room. The fresco above cracks further, plaster raining down in stony tears. My heartbeat steadies as I type again. This story ends with my choice, not yours. Each word rings with conviction, a defiant pulse resisting the manor's hunger. The darkness flickers, shadows retreating. I continue, pouring every ounce of will into each keystroke. I anchor myself in reality beyond these walls. I am Emma Carlyle, and I refuse to belong to any story but my own. A wind whips through the chamber, snuffing out my candle and scattering the pages of the grimoire. The dome above rumbles, plaster cascading in a shower of white. I pound the keyboard. Let the final page be written by me, free and whole, stepping into dawn. With the last word, the chamber shudders as though exhaling a century of breath. Light floods through the fractured dome, sunlight streaming in like salvation. The whispering stops. The shadow figure wails an unearthly sound that curls into silence and dissolves into motes of dust. I stagger to my feet, heart echoing in my ears. The massive doors at the chamber's end swing open, revealing the manicured gardens bathed in golden morning light. The air smells of dew and fresh earth, a stark contrast to the manor's oppressive stench. I clutch the laptop to my chest and step through the doorway. Each step feels like shedding a skin of dread. Behind me, the chamber stands empty, the grimoire's pages scattered like fallen leaves. Outside, the world is real, the distant cry of birds, the rustle of wind through the oaks. My boots crunch on the path as I walk away from Blackthorn Manor, each footstep lighter than the last. Yet in the hollow of my chest, a residue of fear lingers, a reminder that imagination, once unleashed, can become a prison. I glance back at the dark silhouette of the manor framed against the sunrise. I am free, but I carry its whispers within my blood, its terrors etched into my soul. I take a deep breath and set my shoulders. Dawn is mine at last. The sunlight warms my face, but I feel a chill that the dawn cannot chase away. I pause at the garden's edge, white petals drifting in the breeze like spectral tears. Behind me, Blackthorn Manor looms silent, unmoving, its dark windows like eyes watching my every move. My breath catches as I realize the final confrontation isn't over. It's merely changed form. In my palm, the laptop pulses softly. Its bright screen contrasts sharply with the manor's dark silhouette. The moment of choice still hangs between us. I could turn away, leave the past sealed within those stone walls. Or I could return to finish the story on my own terms once and for all. My pulse thunders as I step forward, back through the open doorway. The chamber is empty, save for the scattered pages of the grimoire and the shattered fresco above. Dust motes swirl in the morning light. I place a hand on the cracked floor, feeling its uneven edges beneath my fingertips. This is the heart of the manor's power rits, cradle of creation and destruction. I set my laptop atop the oak table at the center. The grotesque carved faces seem to leer, mouths twisting in silent protest. I open the device and stare at the blank new document waiting for my final words. My fingers hover above the keys, trembling. The weight of everything I've endured presses down on me. The whispers in the night, the shattered mirrors, the sense of dread that poisoned every breath. I close my eyes and recall the first moment I arrived here, hopeful, determined to write a tale of suspense. How naive I was to think I could control darkness so ancient it fed on my very soul. My lips part and I whisper into the silent chamber, "This ends now." I begin to type, each keystroke echoing through the room. I stand at the heart of my creation, the crucible of fear that I once believed I could master. A low rumble begins beneath my feet, as though the manor recoils at the defiance. I feel the air grow heavy, charged with anticipation. My fingers tremble, but I force them to continue. But I am not the puppet of these walls. I am not bound by their whispers or their horrors. The candle on the table reignites itself, flame flickering with unnatural vigor. Its light dances across the pages strewn around me, as though eager to read over my shoulder. I inhale sharply and press on. With this final sentence, I claim my freedom. I reclaim the light that I gave away in my fear. The ground shudders, cracks spidering out from beneath the table's legs. The carved faces twist and shift, as though animated by rage. The whispers rise into a cacophony, frantic, desperate, furious at being denied. I lean into the hurricane of sound, letting it surge around me like a gale. My eyes sting as I type the last words, and so I close the book on this nightmare. Stepping into the dawn I choose. I hit enter, and the room explodes in a brilliant flash of white light. The walls dissolve into shards of memory-shattered glass, scrawled messages, ghostly silhouettes all swirling into the light like dust in a sunbeam. My ears ring, and for an instant I feel weightless, unbound, as though every fear that once rooted me here has been stripped away. Then darkness, a deafening silence follows, more profound than any whisper. The candle's flame gutters out. The echo of the manor's heartbeat fades. I stand alone in emptiness, laptop in hand, the final document glowing in the void. A gentle breeze stirs my hair. My senses return drip by drip, the scent of damp earth, the hum of insects waking to morning, the faint rustle of leaves. I open my eyes to find myself standing at the garden's edge once more. The path stretches ahead, bathed in soft gold. Blackthorn Manor stands behind Meet's windows, shuttered. Its gates closed as though nothing had occurred. I exhale, a long, shuddering breath. My arms tremble, and I press a hand to my chest where my heart still pounds in defiance. I glance down at the laptop screen. The final page stands complete, words stark and resolute. The end belongs to the one who dares to write it. I close the laptop gently, feeling the click of the latch resonate like a promise. With steady steps, I turn and walk away from Blackthorn Manor, each footfall carrying me further from its shadow and closer to the life waiting beyond. As I pass through the wrought iron gates, I feel the weight lift from my shoulders. The manor's silhouette fades behind me, no longer a prison but a story I have conquered. I breathe in the morning air, crisp and filled with possibility. My phone buzzes in my coat. Paquita message at last. Welcome back. Missed you. I smile, marveling at the simple joy of human connection. I type a quick reply, missed you more. I tuck the laptop under my arm and step onto the road, sun warming my back. The whispers are gone, replaced by the steady rhythm of my own heartbeat and the endless promise of tomorrow. The chapel's single candle guttered in the draught, casting long fingers of light that trembled across the stone floor. My pulse thundered in my ears, no longer the quiet rhythm of prayer, but the frantic beat of a man who has lost his peace. Caleb stood at the altar rail, the last prophecy slip-folded in his hand, eyes unreadable. I swallowed, the words choking me. The last confession will free you, or bind you forever. I stepped forward, the hem of my cassock whispering against cold flagstones. Each footfall felt leaden, as though I carried the weight of every sin ever confessed within these walls. I reached the altar rail, placing my hands atop its polished edge, fingertips slick with sweat. Father, Caleb intoned, voice low, you've heard the voices. You've witnessed prophecy and blood. Now you must speak your own truth. Confess. My throat constricted. To confess is to lay bare your soul, your darkest impulses, your shameful deeds. And I had done both, real sins of pride and negligence, and others conjured by fear. Every confession slip I'd read, every note I'd taken, fed the spiral of doubt until reality and hallucination merged. But this moment demanded clarity. I confess, I began, voice wavering. I inhaled, tasting brimstone and candle drip on my tongue. I confess that I have failed in my duty as shepherd. I have judged harshly, cared sparingly, and abandoned souls when they needed me most. Caleb's gaze remained fixed, unblinking, as though he catalogued my every syllable. I confess that I turned my back on Sarah Monroe when her mind broke and I never asked her forgiveness. I confess that, in my shame, I fled the church rather than face the consequences of my own weakness. My hand shook as I unclasped my rosary, rolling the beads through my fingers. I confess that Jessica Marlowe's death haunts me, though I knew her only as another penitent. I confess that every whispered sin I heard, less lies, theft felt less significant than this darkness now consuming me. Caleb's lips curved in a faint, inscrutable smile. Continue, Father. I straightened, summoning the courage to speak the words that knotted my soul. I confess that I feared the prophecy slip would come true, and in that fear, I became complicit. I hid evidence. I doubted law enforcement. I allowed my guilt to blind me to the truth. He nodded slowly. The candlelight glinted in his eyes like a challenge. And your final confession? My breath trembled. The hall seemed to constrict. Around me, the walls closed in like the booth where I once sat in silent judgment. I closed my eyes, seeking strength in prayer, but found only the echo of my own voice. I confess that. I faltered, then steeled myself. That I am no killer. The words rang out, a defiant trumpet in a sepulchre of doubt. I confess that I have been framed, manipulated by someone who knows my every fear, my every secret. This game of blood and confession was never mine to play. I opened my eyes, meeting Caleb's stare directly. So, I pray now, reveal your truth. Show me the face behind the prophecy." For a long moment, he remained silent. The candle flickered, and in the wavering light, I saw his features shift calm mask, cracking, revealing anger, or perhaps pity. Last he spoke, "You truly believe you are innocent?" "I do," I said, voice firm despite the tremor in my chest. "And I confess to nothing more than seeking the truth and saving lives if I can." He sighed, folding the last slip and pressing it into my palm. "Then take this, the final prophecy." I unfolded the note. In the same looping script were 3 simple words: "I am one of you." My breath hitched. All this time, I had believed the killer was an outsider, stranger hiding behind anonymity. But the final confession turned that notion inside out. The killer walks among the faithful. I looked up at Caleb. His face was impassive, yet something in his eyes flickered pride or sorrow, I could not tell. "Look around," he whispered. "You've been gathering evidence in this room. Confession slips, audio recordings, coffee-stained notebooks. All that points to anonymous facelessness. But the killer's greatest weapon is belonging. They know these halls, these routines, these hidden places." I swallowed hard, mind racing through every person I'd encountered. The grocery clerk, the mechanic, the bailiff, the bartender at the roadside diner, the parishioners who'd come seeking absolution. Anyone could wear the collar of faith, yet hide a knife. Caleb stepped back into the shadows. "You spoke your truth, Father. Now know theirs." He lifted an arm, and in the darkness behind him, soft footsteps emerged, slow, deliberate. My heart leaped. I swung my gaze across the pews, catching movement. A figure stepping into the candlelight, one of my own penitents, their face pale, eyes hollow. The figure's hands were clenched at their sides. I recognized the stance, the gait. "No." I whispered the figure, Mrs. Callahan. The widow who confessed to shoplifting her late husband's medications stood at the rail, robe gathered around her like a shroud. She blinked, tears glistening as she spoke. I never wanted them to suffer, Father, but I tried to steal in desperation, and you judged me. I swallowed. "Callahan," she shook her head, lips trembling. "You didn't see me. You saw only my sin. I came here for mercy, but found only condemnation in your eyes. So I learned to give you a sin worth judging." Her hands unfurled, revealing a small, blood-stained knife. "I wrote the prophecies because I wanted you to see the pain you caused." The chapel reeled as though struck by an earthquake. I staggered back, rosary slipping from my hand, beads clattering across stone. Why kill them, Jessica? The girl by the creek. Sarah Monroe's memory, her eyes filled with fury and grief. They were innocents, collateral to your judgment. Each death was a sacrifice to your guilt, forcing you to feel what I felt. A wrenching pain tore through me, grief for my failures, horror at her vengeance. "Stop this," I begged, voice cracking. "Confess to God, and He will forgive." "You," she laughed, hollow, echoing sound. "God didn't forgive you, Father, and you didn't forgive me." Sirens wailed outside, echoing through the stained glass windows. The sheriff's cruiser lights splashed crimson on the stone pillars. The world swarmed in lights, voices, footsteps. She looked at me, tears and defiance warring on her face. "Confess, Father." I closed my eyes and prayed not for mercy, this time, but for strength. I confess to my failures. I confess to my sins of pride and judgment. But I do not confess to these murders. I opened my eyes. "Callahan, forgive me." Let God judge your heart, not me." Her grip on the knife faltered as sheriff's deputies flooded in, weapons drawn. She dropped to her knees, sobbing. Sheriff Walters approached me, his gaze pained. "Daniel, are you all right?" I nodded, stunned. The final confession had been mine and hers. Faith and morality had collided in this sacred space. Blood and redemption entwined. As Callahan was led away, she whispered, "Tell them, it's their turn now." I watched her disappear into the corridor, conscience aflame. I knelt at the altar, fingertips tracing the cold stone. My voice shook, "Lord, have mercy on us all." Outside, dawn broke, pale and fragile, promising a new day. But inside, I remained in the confessional's shadow, forever changed by the revelations of faith, guilt, and the dark duality of man's soul. And as the first birdsong drifted through the chapel windows, I lifted the rosary and prayed for Callahan, for Jessica, for Sarand, for myself. The fallen shepherd seeking redemption in the wake of the final confession.